I was already in a bad mood when it happened. Running late for work, half a protein bar in my mouth, trying to change the playlist on my phone while merging into traffic. Classic Monday chaos. I'd barely gotten onto Jefferson Boulevard when the guy in front of me slammed his brakes for no reason, and I had to do the same. A split second later, boom. A sharp jolt from behind sent my coffee flying, splattering my dashboard, the lid bouncing somewhere into the abyss of the footwell. I let out a groan. Just my luck. I threw the car in park, grabbed my phone, and stepped out, ready to deal with the damage, maybe scream into the void a little. I turned around expecting to see someone flustered or angry, maybe even yelling. But instead, he was jogging toward me with this kind of half smile on his face, like he wasn't sure if he should apologize or flirt. He was tall and hot and annoyingly relaxed for someone who just rammed into the back of my car. "Hey man, I am so sorry," he said, brushing his dark hair out of his eyes. Totally my fault. I looked down for 1 second to grab my water, and bam. I swear, I never do this. I crossed my arms, trying not to let my irritation show too much. "You rear-ended me." "Yeah, I did, and I feel like an idiot." I sighed and turned to inspect my bumper. Miraculously, it didn't look bad. A little scuff, maybe a hairline crack, but nothing major. His car, some beat-up old Jeep, seemed fine too. "I think it's okay," I muttered. "Barely a scratch." "Still," he said, holding out his hand. "I'm Ryan. Let me make it up to you." I looked at his hand, then at him. "You offering to pay for a car wash or something?" "No," he said, grinning like this was all part of some cosmic meet-cute. "I was thinking more like coffee." I blinked. "Wait, are you asking me out?" Yeah," he said, eyes crinkling. "Is that insane?" "A little." He laughed, and for some reason it made it harder to stay mad. "Look, you don't have to say yes. I just figured I messed up your morning. The least I could do is try to improve your afternoon." I studied him. He had this easy energy, like someone who never got rattled. Tan skin, a soft stubble that looked good without trying, and eyes that made you feel like he was actually paying attention. Not the kind of guy you expect to hit your car, and definitely not the kind of guy who asks you out right after. I glanced at his Jeep, then back at him. "You always hit people and then flirt with them?" "Only the really cute ones." I rolled my eyes, but I felt a laugh bubbling up despite myself. That line should get you slapped. "But did it work?" I hesitated. Then, against my better judgment, I reached into my back pocket, pulled out a pen, and scribbled my number on the back of a gas receipt from my glove box. "You get one chance," I said, handing it to him. "Don't crash it." Ryan's grin widened. "No promises." And just like that, he was gone, back in his Jeep, pulling away with a wave out the window. I stood there for a second, watching his taillights disappear into traffic, wondering what the hell had just happened. By the time I got back into my car, my coffee was cold, my nerves were shot, and I was now apparently going on a date with the guy who rear-ended me in traffic. I didn't know it then, but that minor accident, it was about to cause a major shift in my life. Ryan texted me that same afternoon. "Hope your bumper's okay. Want to meet for coffee tomorrow? I swear I'll park legally this time." I stared at the message longer than I needed to. Part of me expected he'd ghost or forget the whole thing after the adrenaline wore off. But no. He was actually following through. Only if you promise not to hit anything on the way there. I'll Uber. Better yet, I'll bike. Can't rear-end anyone on a bike. We agreed to meet at a small cafe not far from where the crash happened. I showed up a few minutes early, half expecting to regret this whole thing. But when he walked in, slightly flushed from the ride, a little windblown, still somehow unfairly attractive, I felt myself start to relax. "Hey," he said, grinning as he spotted me. "Still cute, still not mad. That's a win." "You're lucky I didn't file a claim," I replied, raising an eyebrow. "Oh, I brought insurance," he said, pulling out a small paper bag. Inside was a fresh blueberry muffin. "That's weirdly charming," I said, surprised. "It's peace offering number 1, he said, sliding into the seat across from me. Peace offering number 2 is a riveting story about how I managed to fail my driving test. Twice. He was easy to talk to, like annoyingly easy. We covered everything from our worst first dates. His included a girl who brought her dad to protect her, to favorite movies, to how we both secretly hated brunch, but kept going because our friends made it sound like a sacred event. He worked as a physical therapist, played flag football on weekends, had a younger sister he called his moral compass, which was somehow both wholesome and hot. "I'm surprised you're single," I admitted halfway through my latte. He shrugged. "I date, but I also work a lot. And I've got this problem where I try to be a little too chill about everything. And then I wake up one day realizing I haven't actually let anyone in for, like, months." I nodded, slower than expected. "Yeah, I get that. Something passed between us then. Not deep or dramatic, just honest. Like we both recognized something familiar in the other person. You don't seem like the kind of guy who says yes to weird date invites from traffic offenders," he said. "I don't," I replied. "So why did you?" I hesitated. "Because you didn't freak out. Because you smiled. Because you actually asked. And because, maybe, I was tired of saying no." Ryan's expression softened. "I'm glad you did." We sat there for a moment, letting the quiet stretch. I wasn't used to first dates feeling like this. Like they weren't trying so hard to be something else. Like they weren't layered in expectation or performance. Eventually, he glanced at the time. "I've got a client soon, but..." He reached into his hoodie pocket and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. "What's that?" "My very professional, extremely serious plan for our next date." He unfolded it and slid it across the table. It was a list, a messy one, handwritten, titled, "Possible Ways to Win Over Jake, Despite Hitting His Car. Take him bowling, let him win, cook dinner, pretend it's not from Trader Joe's. Watch a movie that he picks, even if it sucks. No rear ending. Ever. Ask about his favorite song. Actually listen." I stared at it, then back at him. "You wrote this?" "I told you, I'm really committed to being forgiven." I folded the list and put it in my pocket. "You might be more ridiculous than I thought." "But did it work?" I smiled. "Maybe." As we stepped outside, he walked his bike beside me. No awkward attempts at a hug, no pressure to keep the moment going. Just this quiet ease that felt like the beginning of something. He stopped at the corner and gave me a little salute. "I'll text you." "You better," I said. And as I watched him ride off, his hoodie flapping in the wind, his bike helmet slightly crooked, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Hope. Our second date was bowling. I knew he was serious about the list when we walked into the alley, and he handed me one of those ridiculous neon-colored bowling balls like it was a trophy. "I'm letting you win," he said. "It's on record. Pretty bold move for someone wearing rental shoes." I shot back. Confidence is 90% of the game. The place wasn't crowded. Just a couple of lanes filled with high schoolers and a birthday party happening 2 aisles over. Ryan bought us fries and 2 sodas that tasted like syrup and regret, and we played 3 games. He did not let me win. "I thought you were going easy on me," I said, eyeing the scoreboard where he was ahead by 40 points. "I lied," he said, "but I let you think I was going easy on you, which should count for something." It wasn't just the score. He bowled like someone who had secret practice sessions, spinning the ball, adjusting his stance, muttering "nice" under his breath even before the pins fell. I gave up trying to be competitive by the second game and just leaned into the fun of it. He teased me about my form. I teased him about his victory dance. There was a moment, somewhere between the second round and a shared order of nachos, where I realized I was actually having fun. Like, real fun. Not, "I guess this is fine for a date" fun. The kind of fun that makes you lose track of time and forget to check your phone. The kind of fun that makes you hope the night doesn't end yet. After we turned in our shoes, Ryan glanced at his watch. It's not super late, he said. You hungry? I know this diner that serves pancakes at all hours. Are you seriously pitching pancakes as a third stop? Come on. You've got bowling grease on your fingers. Nothing cures that like syrup. I rolled my eyes, but 5 minutes later, we were in his Jeep heading toward a tiny diner off the freeway. He blasted throwback R&B the entire way and sang every word off-key. I pretended to hate it. I didn't. At the diner, we slid into a booth with torn vinyl seats and a window looking out at the parking lot. The place smelled like burnt coffee and butter. It was perfect. You're a hard person to read, he said after the waitress brought our pancakes. Yeah. You've got this guarded thing going on, like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. I pushed a piece of pancake around my plate with my fork. Maybe I'm just not used to this. To what? To someone being this, direct. Ryan tilted his head. Is that a bad thing? No, I said quickly. Just new. He didn't press, just nodded and poured more syrup. Later, as we were walking out, he brushed his hand against mine. Not a full grab, not even a real hold. Just a gentle tap. A maybe. I didn't pull away. When we got to my car, I turned toward him, unsure of what I was supposed to say. He looked at me like he already knew. I had a really good time, he said, his voice a little softer now. Yeah, me too. There was a beat of silence, the kind that stretches just long enough for you to wonder if something's about to happen. Then he smiled. Okay, well, I'm gonna go before I ruin it by making things weird. I blinked. You're not gonna try to kiss me? Not tonight, he said. I don't want this to be fast. You're not a quick win, Jake. It caught me off guard. The honesty. The intentional pacing. Like he'd actually thought about it. He opened the door to his Jeep, leaned on it for a second, and looked back. Next time, it's your pick, he said. But I'm still bringing the list. Then he got in and drove away. And for the second time in 2 weeks, I stood in a parking lot and watched this guy disappear into traffic. Only now I wasn't confused or annoyed. I was smiling. The third date was my call. I kept it simple. A walk through the city park near the art museum, followed by food truck tacos, and sitting on a bench watching people walk their dogs. I liked that Ryan didn't try to make everything an event. He was the type to enjoy quiet moments without making them feel like filler. You ever think about how many people you've passed in your life and never thought twice about? He asked, stretching his legs out in front of him. I nodded. I try not to. It makes me feel small. Not small, just part of something bigger. He said things like that sometimes. Quiet, philosophical things that felt more honest than performative. The kind of thoughts you usually keep to yourself unless you're comfortable. Or trying to be. I glanced at him. You always this reflective after tacos? Only when they're spicy enough to burn off my ego, he said, grinning. That night he walked me to my door. There was a moment, leaning against the frame, keys in my hand, where I saw it happen. His eyes flicked to my mouth. He stepped in just a little closer. The distance between us narrowed to a breath. Still taking it slow? I asked. He hesitated. Do you want me to kiss you? Kind of, he smiled. Then I'm definitely not doing it. Ryan, he shrugged. The longer the wait, the better the payoff. I narrowed my eyes. You're insufferable. Maybe, he said, but you're still smiling. He wasn't wrong. The weird part was how easily we fell into a rhythm. We texted every day, saw each other 2 or 3 times a week. Some nights we just sat in his apartment eating leftovers and watching documentaries about deep-sea creatures or cults. Other nights we went out, bars, movies, impromptu trips to IKEA just to walk around and critique furniture neither of us could afford. We weren't sleeping together. Not yet. There was something unspoken between us. Not fear exactly, but a kind of mutual respect that felt like a novelty. I liked that he didn't push. I liked that I didn't feel like I had to impress him or perform interest to keep him around. But then, things shifted. It was a Sunday morning, 2 months in, and we were lying on his couch. My head was on his shoulder. His hand was resting on my knee. And I felt it. That internal flicker. The voice that says, "Okay, you're in this now." I turned slightly, facing him. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure. Why did you ask me out that day?" He didn't even pretend not to know what I meant. "You looked tired. Not like you hadn't slept, but like life had been kind of punching you in the ribs." I blinked. "That's poetic." "And unsettling." He paused. "I saw you step out of your car, all tense and frustrated, and then something in your face just shifted. Like you were about to yell, but instead you just sighed. And I thought, that guy looks like he needs a break." I didn't respond right away, because part of me hated how accurate that was. I finally said. "Burnt out, cynical, kinda done with everything." He nodded. "I figured, and I don't know, I just thought maybe I could give you something that didn't suck." I studied him for a moment. "You think you've done that?" He smiled, not in a cocky way. "I hope so." I kissed him. It wasn't dramatic. No music swelling in the background. Just a quiet, simple kiss on a lazy morning in his apartment, with sunlight spilling through the windows and the sound of the neighbor's dog barking down the hall. He kissed me back without hesitation, one hand slipping behind my neck, the other never leaving my knee. When we pulled apart, I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't thinking about what came next. I was just there, with him. We didn't label it. Not officially, anyway. We weren't boyfriends, but we weren't just dating either. It was more like this quiet agreement. Like, you're the person I want to text when something weird happens. Or you're the one I want to order Chinese food with on a rainy Friday night. It didn't need a title. At least not yet. But when people asked, I found myself saying, "I'm seeing someone." And I liked the way that sounded. By month 3, we'd built habits. I had a toothbrush at his place. He kept oat milk at mine, even though he hated the taste. I learned that he snored sometimes. Not obnoxiously, just enough to make you smile in the middle of the night because it reminded you he was real. Then, one weekend, he invited me to meet his friends. "They're chill," he said. "It's just game night. Pizza, beer, maybe some Cards Against Humanity if we're feeling edgy." I said yes before I could overthink it. They were nice, loud, chaotic, funny. Mostly other couples, a few single stragglers, a dog named Benson who took a special liking to my lap. Ryan was relaxed the whole time, one arm draped casually over the back of my chair, smiling whenever I made one of his friends laugh. At one point, someone made a joke about how we met, and Ryan leaned in and said, "You know the saying, love taps? That's how we started." I rolled my eyes, but I didn't correct him, because maybe it was a love tap. After everyone left and we were cleaning up empty bottles and pizza boxes, I asked, "So what do they think?" "About you?" he said, grabbing a plate. "They like you." I leaned against the counter. "How do you know?" "Because no one grilled you about politics or made a passive-aggressive joke about my ex." "Ah, high praise." He looked at me, a little more serious. "You did good, and it meant a lot that you came." I shrugged, trying to play it cool. "You offered pizza. I'm not made of stone, but deep down, I felt it. That shift again. That creeping feeling that this thing, whatever we were doing, was turning into something more." The next morning, I woke up in his bed to the smell of coffee and the sound of Ryan humming in the kitchen. It wasn't a song I recognized, probably something he made up. I lay there for a while, just listening, letting myself be in it, letting the feeling linger without rushing to define it. He padded into the room barefoot, 2 mugs in hand. "Black, no sugar," he said, handing me mine. "You're learning." "I'm observant," he said, climbing back into bed beside me. "Also, you yelled at me that one time I put sweetener in it." I took a sip, grinning. "It's called boundaries." We sat there quietly for a minute. Just sipping, half covered by a fleece blanket, his legs tangled with mine under the sheets. Then he said it, not casually, not dramatically, just real. "I really like you, Jake." I set my mug down. "Yeah?" "Yeah." I turned to look at him. "I really like you too." He smiled. It wasn't a big smile. It was soft, warm. The kind of smile you give someone when you're thinking, "Please don't disappear." I leaned over and kissed him. Then I said, "Okay. Now I want to label it." He blinked. "Wait, really?" "Yeah, let's call it what it is." He didn't hesitate. "Okay, you're my boyfriend." It felt strange in my mouth when I said it back. Boyfriend? Like something new I had to try on. But it fit. Surprisingly well. Being Ryan's boyfriend felt easy. There were no weird games, no ghosting, no guessing where I stood. He texted when he said he would. He made time, not excuses. And when life got busy, which it did, he didn't vanish. He just showed up in smaller ways. A meme at lunch. A quick FaceTime before bed. A voicemail that was just him singing off-key to a song I liked. And I did the same. Because it wasn't about effort anymore. It was about habit. Want. Care. But it wasn't all perfect. One Thursday afternoon, we had our first real fight. It started over something stupid. He forgot to text me back about dinner plans. I waited. Then waited more. Eventually just ate alone and turned off my phone, annoyed. When he showed up at my door unannounced, holding takeout, grinning like nothing happened, I wasn't in the mood. "You could have told me you were running late," I said. He blinked, surprised. "I figured I'd just swing by with food." "Yeah, but I sat there waiting. And then I figured, maybe we weren't doing this." Ryan frowned. "It's not that serious. I just got caught up." "That's kind of the problem," I said. "You assume I'll just go with the flow." He looked away, and for a second, I thought he'd leave. But then he sat down on my couch. "I'm not great at this," he said quietly. "The keeping track of other people's time thing. I used to date someone who didn't care if I flaked, and now I forget that's not how everyone works." I didn't say anything. He glanced at me. "But you're not everyone, and you matter to me." I exhaled. "I just want to feel like you're thinking about me, even when it's busy, even when things are chaotic." "I am," he said, "but I get it. I'll do better." He did. Not by becoming perfect, but by actually trying. That mattered more. We grew from that. I learned he needed gentle reminders, not guilt. He learned I needed clarity, not guesswork. There was a rhythm now, date nights. Sunday mornings. Grocery store trips where we argued over oat milk brands like we were in a sitcom. It was real, and it was ours. Then one night, we went back to the intersection. It wasn't planned. We were driving home from a movie, and I pointed it out. "That's the light," I said, smirking, "where you ruined my morning." He slowed down, pulled over, put the Jeep in park. We sat there in silence for a second. The street looked different at night, quieter, almost peaceful. Ryan turned to me. "Best crash of my life," I laughed. "You're ridiculous." "Yeah, but I got your number out of it, which you could have asked for without slamming into my car." "Would you have given it to me?" I hesitated. "Maybe." He leaned over and kissed me. Just a soft, lingering kiss that felt like punctuation. When he pulled back, he said, "You think about where we'd be if I hadn't hit you that day?" "All the time," I said, "and it freaks me out." "Why?" Because I almost missed this. You. He nodded. Same. We sat there a while longer, just watching the red light change to green, then back again, over and over. And somehow, it felt like the perfect metaphor. Because life does that, doesn't it? Stops you, makes you wait, forces you to pause. And sometimes, in the middle of all that, someone rear-ends you and changes everything. The day Ryan moved in was chaotic in the most unromantic way. Boxes everywhere, a broken lamp. My closet half cleared to make space for his endless drawer organizers. We bickered over shelf space. He insisted on putting his blender in our kitchen. I said no man should need that much protein powder. But then, hours later, we collapsed on the couch, sweaty, exhausted, surrounded by bubble wrap and half-assembled IKEA furniture, and he leaned over, pressed his face into my shoulder and said, "This feels right." And it did. It wasn't about cohabitating. It was about coming home and knowing someone would be there. Someone who knew your worst moods and still made dinner. Someone who left little notes on the fridge and texted you memes mid-meeting. We had hard days, work stress, money stress, family stress. We didn't always communicate perfectly. Sometimes I shut down, sometimes he forgot to listen. But we always circled back, always returned to each other. That winter, I got the flu. The real, body-aching, fever-drenched kind. And Ryan, who usually joked his immune system was powered by spinach and arrogance, caught it 2 days later. We spent the week quarantined in our apartment, trading thermometers and watching terrible reality TV with tissues shoved up our noses. Somewhere in the middle of that fever dream, wrapped in too many blankets and coughing like we were dying, Ryan looked at me and said, "Still worth it." I laughed so hard I nearly threw up. But I knew what he meant. Because loving someone isn't always about the highlights. It's about the moments in between. The sick days, the silent mornings, the small compromises no one sees. And through it all, we held on. One night, maybe a year after it all started, we were at that same cafe where we had our first date. Ryan had made us late. Again. His fault for insisting on parallel parking when there was a perfectly good garage half a block away. We were sitting outside, bundled in hoodies, sipping coffee like we were back at the beginning. "I have something for you," he said, pulling something out of his jacket pocket. It was a bumper sticker. Black and white. Simple. "I break for cute guys." I stared at it. "You didn't." "Oh, I did," he said. "It's a limited edition, only one in existence." "You're such an idiot," he shrugged. "But I'm your idiot." I rolled my eyes and smiled. Because here's the thing. I never thought the guy who rear-ended me in traffic would end up being the love of my life. I didn't expect the dent in my bumper to become the beginning of something real. But sometimes, life crashes into you. Unexpected, messy, loud. And if you're lucky, you meet someone in the wreckage who makes it all worth it.